With demons being playable in Demon Slayer Hinokami Chronicles, we continue our journey into discovering how they would play in-game. One of the demons that has a very solid chance of making it is without a doubt Susamaru. Susamaru already has a boss fight in-game with her own boss fight moveset, but if she's actually playable, how would she play in Demon Slayer Hinokami Chronicles? Let's find out. To make a moveset, we're gonna need an attack combo with an up combo finisher, and that's the launcher, a down combo finisher, and that's the knockdown, a jumping attack, a grab, an awakening effect, an awakened combo finisher, 3 special moves, and an ultimate. And in my opinion, for the best Susamaru moveset, she starts with just 2 arms, saving the 6-arm Susamaru for her awakening. However, if she actually makes it into the game, I don't actually think that's how it's gonna be. I think she'll just be the 6-arm version from the get-go. Why do I think that? Well, we have the boss fight trailer and she always has 6 arms during the fights, including the cutscene right before the boss fight. And this shot right here is actually this shot in the anime. And as you can see, she's only got 2 arms in the show, but they didn't even make that model for the game. I'm still gonna make her base form for this video just have 2 arms with 6 arms being saved for the awakening. But if you want an actual prediction, just take whatever I give you in this moveset and make it 5 times more boring. First, the attack combo. This is what you get when you mash the square button. Susamaru's basic attacks would be ranged. She would actually be the first character we're giving ranged moves to as basic attacks. But Connect 2 has made characters like this work well in the past. You need to look no further than the Storm games. Characters like Deidara and Temari have had ranged combos for a very long time. And the reason these characters are actually balanced in the roster is because the opponents can just smoke all of those projectiles by dashing through them. Also, a full projectile combo doesn't deal as much damage as a melee combo, and those balance principles will still apply to this game. But the advantage is obvious. You can combo from really far away, and your opponent will probably need to spend a bar of meter to dash at you, bypassing your projectiles. So the combo would be a variety of throw animations, maybe even include the kick from when Susamaru kicks the ball at Nezuko as a little reference mid-combo. And these projectiles will track the opponent's initial position, but they won't track their movement or dodges. So you'd be able to recreate the scene where Nezuko dodges a bunch of attacks. Next up, let's talk about the launcher and the knockdown. The launcher is when you tilt the stick up while attacking, and the knockdown is when you tilt the stick down instead. Now, there's nothing in the show for these moves, but I don't think it's hard to imagine them. For the launcher, Susamaru throws one of her balls from below, hitting the opponent upwards and launching them into the air. And from the knockdown is the exact opposite. She throws something up, the ball bonks the opponent in the head and knocks them down. The unique thing here is that it might not be possible to combo from the launcher if it's done from too far away. Usually, when you launch an opponent, you can just dash and follow up with an air combo. But for Susamaru, if she's too far away, the combo might just drop. So if you're comboing from a distance, the knockdown might be the better option. And the same goes for her jumping attack. This is a single attack or flurry of attacks that characters do when pressing the attack button while jumping. We also don't have Susamaru jumping in this fight ever, but it's also not hard to imagine her jumping up and throwing 2 balls. Simple. And let's wrap up her normal moves with a grab. This is your unblockable move that triggers an attack animation if it connects. Even though this is a ranged character, I still think her universal grab should be close range. We are going to give her an unblockable special move, but for this grab, I think she would just stretch her arm out like many other characters do currently in the game. As for the attack animation once the grab connects, I think this kick on Nezuko is perfect. It's one of the few melee attacks that she lands, and since she just grabbed, it is the perfect opportunity to use it. Besides, the kick is gonna knock the opponent away, putting them in that zoning distance that Susamaru really likes. But now things get interesting. Let's talk about Susamaru's awakening. Once you have at least 1 bar of the skill gauge, you can enter an awakening mode. This enhances your attack power and speed while giving you a unique visual effect. Usually for Demon Slayers, you can see their breathing style leaking out of their sword. For Susamaru, we're gonna grow 2 extra arms. And the awakening is what would make Susamaru unique, because the awakening doesn't just change her appearance and attack power, it actually changes her moveset. So her basic attacks, for instance, would have more projectiles, which would make them harder to dodge. You'd still be able to dash through them, but that means more damage if the opponent actually gets hit. And if you land the full combo, just like every other character in Awakening, it triggers a cinematic finisher. For Susamaru, this even happens if the opponent is far away from long range. And her finisher would be these 3 balls thrown simultaneously, recreating this scene where Lady Tamayo and Yushido get pierced by her attack. Replace Yushido and Lady Tamayo with your opponent, and cover that up a little bit with some screen effects to hide the blood and gore. The game does have blood, but in order to not go too over the top and rate it for, you know, younger ages, which sells more copies, usually you have to disguise a lot of this stuff. I mean, the perfect example is Storm 4, with Naruto and Sasuke having black arms, instead of those arms actually being missing. I think with enough effects you can definitely achieve this, and it's a pretty fast animation too. Think of the end of Inosuke's ultimate. Because of the effects, that ultimate has such an amazing impact, but what that's actually doing is saying, hey, Inosuke slice this guy in half. So we do something like that, but instead of the screen going black and white, it would go a bit more red, because you know, demons. Now the awakening, the 6-arm version of Susamaru, not only affects her normal moves, it also affects her special moves. So as I introduce each one of them, I'm gonna talk about their base form, but also I'm gonna talk about their awakened form and how they get buffed. The first special is the one you get when you press the triangle button, and for Susamaru, this would be a strong throw. Susamaru throws a ball that cannot be dashed through, it must be blocked or dodged, otherwise it will hit. So it's a higher priority projectile for you to mix up with your low priority projectiles, aka your attack button. And the unique thing about this move is that you can hold down the triangle button to charge up your move and change up your timing. So if the opponent is trying to dodge it, by holding down the button, you're throwing them off their timing, you might catch them. And if your attack connects with the opponent, it simply damages them. But if you manage to charge up the attack and hit the opponent with it, it will also make them trip, stunning them for a very short time. This is a reference to when Nezuko tried to kick one of the balls, but the ball ripped off her leg and she fell to the ground. This is what would happen in game. I mean, you wouldn't rip off a leg, but you would sort of sweep an opponent from below and they would be knocked down. But instead of an actual knockdown, it's a short stun state that can let Susamaru combo. Now the stun time wouldn't be very long, so if you're gonna combo, you better do it fast. I mean, you are a ranged character, so you can combo from pretty far away, so it's only fair that the character isn't stunned for too long. And when Susamaru is awakened, this ability still behaves the same, but it gets charged up a lot faster. So the time it takes to charge up the projectile is a lot shorter, so it's easier for you to connect with it and get a free combo. Moving on to the second special, this is the one you get when you tilt the left stick and hit triangle. And we're taking an ability straight from the boss fight trailer. Susamaru readies 2 balls and throws both of them after a short delay. Since this ability is done by tilting the stick and hitting the special button, I thought it'd be cool to give you some kind of manual control for this one. It's still assisted, it's not purely manual, but depending on the direction you tilt your stick, you can actually influence where the balls are gonna go. So if the opponent is trying to dodge them, you can actually catch them by predicting where they are going to move. Since these balls are also a special move, they're also a higher priority projectile, meaning the opponent cannot dash through them, meaning their options are to block or dodge. So if they choose to dodge, if you predict the side correctly, you can catch them that way. And when Susamaru has 6 arms, she is gonna throw 4 balls instead of 2. And you can change the direction of the stick during the throw animation, so each one of those 4 balls could be going in a different direction. And the idea here is to make the opponent scared of dodging your zoning, which would condition them to block, at which point you can start charging up an attack or alternate with your fast long range attacks and keep the opponent guessing on how you're gonna zone them. Now both of these special moves can be reacted to, so you can go from dodging to blocking if you see that little shine indicating the opponent did a special, especially if you're standing far away. So the further away your opponent is, the easier it is for them to adapt, but also the safer you are because you can't get hit from that far away. But now you have enough options to keep them guessing on what's coming next, and you can condition them into playing it safe when they're far away. And that brings us to the third special. This is the one you get when you hold block and hit triangle. And we're also taking this one from the boss fight trailer, but adjusting it because this is a very boss fight move. Susamaru would throw a ball in the air and that ball would fall on the opponent after a short delay. It's this move you see here for a very short time, but instead of all of these balls falling around the opponent, is just one of these circles. If Susamaru gets hit or blocks an attack, this attack is interrupted. Even if the ball is already up there, it won't come down anymore. And that's because the ball itself is an unblockable move. So you condition your opponent to block with the previous 2 abilities, and this is the one that breaks their guard. And I can already imagine some pretty hype combos. You start a combo, throw a ball into the air, but call an assist to keep the combo going, and then pick up the combo again, the ball falls down, you finish it. Oh my god, I love it. And it also works as a wake-up pressure tool if you want to force your opponent to roll in a certain direction. And when Susamaru awakens, instead of 1 ball, she will throw 2 of them, which will fall with different timings. Think Zamasu's EX orbs in Dragon Ball FighterZ. First he activates them, then the first one explodes, and then the second one after a small delay. That's exactly how it would work here. You throw 2 balls up, which then 1 falls after another. Finally, let's talk about Susamaru's ultimate. This is the strongest attack you can unleash once your skill bar has at least 1 stock. And for her ult, I'm gonna use the very first attack she did in the show, which is when she throws a bunch of Temari into Lady Tamayo's house and creates essentially a storm of attacks coming from all directions. It'd be even cooler if Yahaba came in to make an appearance during her ultimate, and you could even see the arrows redirecting the balls from her ultimate. But there's also a chance that Yahaba will be playable, and maybe that's a bit weird if you're playing against Yahaba and not with him on your team. But with or without arrows, after the storm of attacks, the ult should end with this. This finishing blow is awesome, even if it is a bit gory. To hide the decapitation effect, we can still make it look awesome again. Remember Inosuke's ultimate effect? Or better yet, check out the second Mizukage's ultimate in Storm 4, this shot right here, these effects would be perfect for this finisher. And that's the moveset for Susamaru. She would be the first ranged fighter in the game with fast, low priority projectiles for her basic attacks. The grab would still be close range though. Her awakening would be more than a power buff, it would actually change her moveset, including her special moves, which are a strong shot that can be charged, 2 projectiles that can be manually aimed, and a setup attack throwing a ball into the air which falls down shortly afterwards. As for her ultimate, we're gonna have an absolute storm of balls finishing with that decapitation. And once again, if the character actually does come to the game, I think she will have 6 arms from the get-go. I don't think she will have a chargeable special, I don't think you'll be able to manually aim your moves, but making movesets like this ends up being a lot more fun, and maybe, who knows, someone out there in Japan is watching. And if this video inspires them to make something better, then I guess we all win. I've recently rewatched season 1 of Demon Slayer to see what kind of moveset we can make from Muzan, and unfortunately, I don't think we have enough for a video. If Muzan is playable, his moveset will be mostly made up for sure. So for our next prediction, it will either be Yahaba or Kyogai. Let me know which one of these you'd like to see next in the comments down below. And as always, thank you very much for watching. My name is Globku, and I'll see you next time. Bye!